If you're watching this video around the time it came out, I just passed my 1.5 year mark on HRT, and I wanted to make this video to give a rough timeline of most of the experiences and effects that I've went through during that time. If you know me at all, you know, but I'll specifically be talking about estrogen-based HRT. This video will have 6 main sections: 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, nice, 9 to 12 months, 12 to 15 months, and 15 to 18 months. Not every section will be extremely detailed, as this is going to be primarily based off of my memory, since I have very little written/visual documentation of my progress from any time before now, which honestly is just another great reason to make this video. Before we get into the changes that I've gone through though, I think it's important to talk about the history of what HRT I've taken and when. This is going to be a quick section of the video, heavily talking about like the medication that I've been on. If this is a triggering topic for you, please skip to the time on screen, as well as the time the editor Wonder will add in post right here. Skip to the 2-minute mark. I first started HRT on August 11th, 2023, where I took an initial 2 milligram daily dose of estrogen for 1 month to make sure my body wasn't going to have an allergic reaction to the pill or something. After this first month, I switched to 4 milligram. I continued on this until the 6-month mark, where I 1 upped my estrogen dose to 6 milligrams daily, and 2 added progesterone into the mix at 100 milligrams daily every night. I've heard this can be a little bit early for progesterone, so I want to say it's also entirely normal and usual to wait until around the 12-month mark before starting this, if that's something that you do want to take, but this route is what worked best for me. I actually never had to and still don't add a testosterone blocker to what I take. My testosterone was extremely suppressed to a really low level with estrogen alone. I stayed on those doses for a while, and in fact, these were the doses that I was on whenever I went to visit my girlfriend that I talked about at length in this video right here. At around the 11-month mark, I decided I wanted to up to 200 milligrams of progesterone. This is because I wasn't seeing the full potential from progesterone on just 100 milligrams alone, and this was an absolute amazing decision for me. My last and most recent change to my HRT dosing was upping my estrogen to 8 milligrams daily at around the 14.5-month mark. It should generally catch you up to where I'm at now. Now, for the really fun part of the video, and the part that I'm sure many of you all came here for. How did all of this affect me? I'm going to preface this by saying that 100% of my experiences and effects have been positive. I have not had a single thing that happened to me on HRT that I was not happy with. I truly hope that everyone's journey goes as well for them as mine did for me. I also want to say before starting, I've been told by many people that I took like super estrogen, so don't go in with the expectation of getting exactly what happened to me, but this is what happened to me. Starting at 0 to 3 months on the timeline, there were 3 main changes that I noticed during this time. The one that I see most people talk about is initial breast growth. I saw initial breast growth at around the 1.5 and 2-month mark, if my memory serves me correctly. This is just when the growth started its process. I hadn't really seen any size change in this time really, but it was nice to know that everything was starting. I also noticed that body odor started to slowly become less noticeable and almost disappear at some points, which was a much lesser talked about point compared to others I'd seen, but a more than welcome change nonetheless. The most noticeable and relieving change for me in this time, however, was mental clarity. This is extremely difficult to describe to someone who hasn't personally experienced it, but it really feels as if TV static was switched to a channel full of color and brightness. Like, I was metaphorically sitting with viewing the world at a saturation slider of 10% while everyone else viewed it at 100%. And all of a sudden, I also got to permanently now see the world at 100%. It was genuinely overwhelming. And to put it lightly, and though this may sound dramatic, but I promise it's not, it was life-changing. While mental clarity has been a progressive change through my entire time taking HRT, getting that initial hit of, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel, is something that so overly confirmed that I was making the correct decision, that I was finally gonna feel like me and my body was finally gonna match me. These changes continued nicely into the 3 to 6 month period where nothing really unique per se happened, but I did get to see my very first burst of breast growth. By the end of this period, it was definitely noticeable that I had breast growth, visible through a shirt, but it was definitely still possible to hide if I needed to. I think when I measured around this time, I was around a B cup, but I could honestly be entirely mistaken. It's been a while. That was like a year ago. Other than this, the mental clarity continued and my world got brighter and brighter. Even though by now a lot of bigots were trying to keep me down, I've done content creation my entire time on HRT, so. But I was so excited to see what changes would come in the future. In the 6 to 9 month range, 2 amazing changes became extremely noticeable during this period: softer skin and less body hair. I don't remember the exact date for these, and honestly, it could have happened a lot sooner than I originally noticed it, but this was the time period that I noticed my skin was a lot softer and a lot smoother than it used to be. I also noticed that when I didn't shave, my body hair was much less noticeable, and overall also felt much softer than before, which made me quite literally feel more comfortable in my own skin. The last unique change I noticed during this time was my alcohol tolerance. If you don't want to hear about this or you're triggered by this topic, feel free to skip to this timestamp. 5 minutes and 21 seconds. I've never really drank much in general, but over the few times I have partaken, I noticed that my tolerance got drastically lower after starting HRT, which is due to the overall decrease in muscle mass that I've experienced. I don't really know where to place that to a specific section though, because it kind of happened everywhere at the exact same rate. All I know is it takes a lot less alcohol to have a noticeable effect on me. Other than these changes, the same mental clarity increase continued, as well as an increase in breast growth yet again. Thanks, progesterone. I think by now it's up to around a C cup, and they were becoming a lot harder to hide. But as hard to hide as they were, time keeps going and changes keep coming. So now on to the 9 to 12 month range, which has the amazing milestone of 1 entire year on HRT. During the 9 to 12 month period, I experienced 3 more major unique changes, the most noticeable of which was height. I went into HRT knowing that I could potentially shrink in height, which I absolutely wanted considering I had a lot of dysphoria over my height. By the time that I was 1 year on HRT, I measured myself for one of the first time in months to where, to my surprise, I shrank 2 inches, 5 centimeters in the better units. Oh, hey, what are you doing here? A lot of people have asked me why losing height is something that happens in HRT, and while I'm not a professional at everything on it, I am very good at taking it. But from what I know, the main cause of height loss in estrogen-based HRT is due to a decrease in muscle mass and pelvic tilt. If you don't know exactly what pelvic tilt is, it's bones around your hips rotating in ways that make your hips wider and your height smaller. This not only caused my height to go down a few units of measurement, but also caused my hips to become a lot more prominent. I think with gradual changes like this, it's more difficult for me to notice the exact differences between now and when I started due to the lack of documentation, but my back definitely noticed the change. I love my wider hips, but I found it makes it a lot harder to get comfy on the bed when I'm trying to sleep because I sleep on my side. However, still entirely worth it. Before we stray too far from the topic of shrinking though, I should talk about my third change that happened in this range. This was the first time that I noticed my feet were quite a bit smaller. I'll be speaking in US shoe sizes for this one. Also because that's all I really know, unfortunately. But reminder that this is the time period that I went to visit my girlfriend in a place that I could actually walk around safely in. Something I hadn't been able to do in years. This is where I learned that the shoes I had for many years were very much no longer comfortable for me. And upon arriving back from the trip, I measured my foot and yeah, I shrunk not one, not two, but 3 entire shoe sizes. Which again was something I knew was possible, but was something I went in with the expectation of this probably won't happen to me. Regardless, these were more than welcome changes, and ones that I was extremely happy to see actually happen to me. Because again, I knew these specifically did not happen to this degree to everyone. During this period, I still saw mental clarity and breast growth, which I did see in every single time range. No cup size increase or any new words to use here though, but those were continuing as usual. Speaking of continuing, that's exactly what happened in the 12 to 15 month range as well. There weren't a ton of unique changes in this section or anything major to talk about with continual changes, but I do want to note that this was the first month that I processed my face being noticeably softer and overall just feeling more like me. It was around this time that I was finally to a point where I could be happy looking into a mirror, and it didn't fill me with this dread and sadness, and I could actually see someone resembling me for the first time. There were definitely a lot more changes that happened during this time that I didn't fully notice at that time, but I want to talk about them as I noticed them. And what better way to do that than to jump into the very last section of my HRT journey so far, the 15 to 18 month range. This is the range I actually just finished a few days before this video releases, and actually as of recording this, that's today. Today is my 1.5 year on HRT. What better way to celebrate than to run through everything that's happened to me during that time? With this being the most recent section of the video, it's the one that I also have the most vivid memory about as well. There are a lot of changes that I noticed in this range that honestly probably happened earlier. But I've been very busy the last few months and haven't had the opportunity to properly measure myself to fully notice these changes. Within the last 3 months, as of the time of uploading this, I've noticed even more breast growth and I'm around a D cup now. They're basically impossible to hide without throwing my hair in front of them now, because even without a bra and wearing a hoodie, it's so easy to tell that they exist. Which honestly, I'm to the point now that I don't want to hide anymore. I want to present as who I really am no matter what, so this made me so happy. While they still have more growing and filling out to go, I'm much happier and my chest dysphoria is so much less than it used to be. The next major change that I've noticed recently is that I've somehow shrunk even more in height. I went into HRT thinking it was possible for me to maybe shrink, 1 or 2 inches. By measuring now, I'm around 3 or 4 inches shorter than I was when I started HRT. I was pretty tall before, so being able to shrink around 4 inches from where I started has made me so overwhelmingly happy walking around and existing. But again, as a disclaimer, do not go into HRT expecting this kind of change. This isn't something that happens to everyone, and from what I've seen, this amount of height loss is extremely rare. I got extremely fortunate that I, one, wanted this, and two, got this. But if this is something you want, I don't want your expectations to be ruined if this doesn't exactly happen to you. Regardless, the last change of this section and of the video that I really want to talk about is how much HRT has changed my ability to exist in the world. I'm sure it's a combo of HRT and confidence gained through doing content creation and putting myself out there. But when I started HRT, I was really shy, nervous, I wanted to hide, I really just didn't want to be perceived. I did do content creation, but I leaned into a more cozy, comfy aspect because while I thought I wanted that at the time, I realized slowly that for me it was because I just didn't have the confidence to be as loud and as energetic as I really wanted to be. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing inherently wrong with cozy and comfy environments. Hell, I love existing in them sometimes. I just realized that creating that environment wasn't stimulating enough for me. I've become a lot more confident in myself and a lot more outgoing when it comes to social interaction. I feel a weight lifted that makes me feel like I can actually talk to people. I can talk to friends more. I can hang out around people I look up to more. And I can hold conversations with those I was once intimidated by due to the sheer level of respect that I have for them. Needless to say, I'm a lot happier. HRT has been single handedly the best decision that I've made in my entire life. There's not a single second that I ever regret starting or continuing to take HRT. Seeing progress happen and changes occur fills me with such an unrivaled personal joy, and I don't want to imagine where I would be without it. It's helped shape me into the creator, the friend, the person that I am today. And I'm forever thankful for these tiny little blue pills helping me do things that I once thought were impossible for myself. If you're still here, thank you for making it this far. And I hope hearing about my journey filled you with hope, determination to fight, whatever it is that you needed from it. If you're taking any HRT, how's your journey gone so far? I'd love to read your stories as well. This video was a bit in the making, and a lot of people knew this video was coming as well, because I've talked about it in length over on my Twitch channel. I love giving people who support me live secret sneak peeks on projects I'm working on, and actually, some new video ideas I've had may be live streamed over there sometime. So if you want to know about videos like this early, head over there. Anyways, that's my entire experience in HRT. I hope you all enjoyed and found something useful from this video, and if you haven't heard it lately, I'm proud of you, and you should be proud of yourself. You're doing great. Take care, everyone.